sports.
You know, I'm not opposed to any of those types of tactics. You know, there's only 55% of Americans that actually have a savings plan with goals to save this year, and that's compared with 62% in 2008. So in other words, we're saving less and less and less each generation that we go.
Yeah.
So I'm a big proponent of introducing a class. You know, we used to take home ec class, cooking class, and sewing class in school. Why not have a credit card and budget finance class early in elementary school to learn how to do this stuff when you become an adult?
Actually, some of the schools have started that. But I want to tell you about a story that I found it very exciting. You know, in 1971, folks, President Nixon disconnected the currency from the gold. In the olden days, you had to have this much
the
gold.
Gold standard.
Yeah,
right?
Gold standard. You had this much gold, and then you had to have only this much currency ahead of it. But since then, we have come a long way. Now you can print money. And then for a while there, they said, okay, the country has oil, country has gas, country has some minerals, and the others, you got to put all their wealth, and against that, they can print the currency. Now, here is an interesting item. You know, gold bugs are back, and they're saying that we need to pay in gold coins. In a small state in Malaysia called Kelantan, they say that let's start gold coins. The European Union, they say gold is money because people make it money. Paper money is money because government makes it money. But what happens if people lose their faith in governments, and the U.S. government in particular? You know, I mean, people have always been trying to replace dollar with another currency. Now they're saying, hey, we found a perfect replacement. It has to be gold coins and gold.
But doesn't that just take us back? I mean, the more things change, they go back to being the same.
Yeah.
I mean, so gold ultimately has risen in value some three times or four times its value from just a few years ago. And I think it's because there is such uncertainty, volatility to these currencies, whether it's the euro or the dollar or the yen. It doesn't matter. There's no stable currency now that's across the globe. So the gold value, at least, is a universally recognized valuation system. So I'm not surprised to see it go there, but it's right back where we were in the 60s and 70s.
But that's one little state in the country called Malaysia. For it to catch up around the world, it's a long way to go. But I think we should heed to it and reduce our deficit. That is the most important thing at this time.
Yeah, Ramesh, I may have shared this with you, but in a couple of weeks I'll be going to Japan.
Yes.
For a conference to see my brother speak, which is a great honor for my family. But I was reading a few things about Japan, and here's some things I didn't know. You know, Japan has the biggest share of dual income households in the world, and therefore one of the lowest unemployment rates. But it has another problem, and their problem is they don't have enough babies. In Japan, the average birth rate is 1.34 children per woman, which is actually one of the lowest in the world. I mean, compare that to, let's say, 2.1, which it is here in the United States. That means their population over the course of time is getting older. And they're not replenishing or resupplying youth or younger kids to take over those new jobs that are being formed. It's a significant problem. And in fact, the Japanese government has decided to do something about this. And this is the part that's kind of funny. You know, the government has gotten involved in creating these dating clubs where young professional men and women can meet each other in the hopes of forming a connection and consequently having babies to raise. Basically, this is a government's way of trying to get people to procreate, which, you know, you have the opposite problem happening in China where they've had the one baby rule for decades. It's just kind of funny to me how economies can depend so much on the type of labor force that their people provide.
And you know, in Japan, actually, the government gives you money, gifts to have children.
They are creating an online dating site for singles called the Fukui Marriage Hunting Cafe, which is not at all subtle about what you're trying to do. But the government is serious, folks. They will actually give cash or gifts to couples who decide to tie the knot through the site.
They didn't want to take the easy route of getting immigrants?
That's a good question. Maybe you should go to the site and find out.
Folks, you all know Meera Shankar. She is the ambassador of India here in the United States of America. And Mr. Schumer, who is the senator from New York, he actually had a bill introduced in Senate and passed. It's called Border Security Bill, which generally says that it will raise $600 million for the border security. But the money is going to come from the companies that are importing H-1B visa holders or L-1 visa holders into the company by doubling their fees. And of course, Indian ambassador, she was right on target, and she's complaining because Congress has not yet passed it, and the president hasn't signed the bill yet. So she's lobbying for it, and she says, we would ask that those provisions of the bill that discriminate against companies of Indian origin may be suitably amended to create a level playing field for all companies. Even though the bill doesn't mention Indian companies specifically, the manner in which it is currently worded appears to be aimed at information technology companies of India, for instance, Wipro, Tata, Infosys, and Satyam. And I truly appreciate her efforts on behalf of the companies of India, because after all,
they're trying to do business here as well.
That's her job to do, to make sure that her companies are not getting punished in the process. But it reminds me that only a few months ago, when the Indian Americans were being beat up real bad for doubling and tripling their Indian visa fees, I was hoping that she would come to the rescue of Indian Americans, but apparently we are not her constituency. So consequently, she just referred it to Home Ministry and let Home Ministry take care of this.
Well, I hope that wasn't the case. There's a real opportunity